If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
Well, that's AC/DC with the runaway train. And that is SpaceX launching a Falcon 9 rocket. One that has previously been launched and landed is now launching again. And it is taking supplies to the International Space Station. If you're one that enjoys the, well, let's just say commentary on YouTube after events like this happen, you're sure in for a doozy tonight. A SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket delivering supplies to the International Space Station. You can only imagine what people are going to be saying about that. And of course, you've got the Chinese satellite or whatever that deal was that came crashing down to Earth yesterday. So that's all going on, and it's just wild that you have these great advancements seemingly in U.S. space technology and their success. And this used to be the kind of thing that all of America would get behind and celebrate, and it'd be cool and be trending, but not today. Nope. Let's get a porn star on 60 Minutes. Yes, that's what we want. Give me the porn star. Pretty amazing. Well, my guest is Leo Zagami, joining me from Italy, leozagami.com. Now, I want to talk to Leo about the Pope's comments and then the Vatican denying it and then the Pope going silent on the issue. That's going to be the main topic of discussion I want to get into with Leo today. But first, Leo, you're about I think like 2 or 3 weeks away or removed, from the Italian elections. Everything is kind of settled down and parsed out. Just what do you have to report as far as that's concerned?
Well, I will suggest we go back to the article and the interview we did last month, because nothing has changed. As I told you earlier, there will be an impossibility in the end to shape a government because it was completely rigged from the start with an electoral system that favored this chaos, and in the end, the formation of a technical government imposed by the Italian president. So it's possible, and now many parties are already discussing this during the Easter period, that in the end, Gentiloni, the present prime minister, will simply be the next prime minister, because they want to keep him until they change now finally the election, the law for these elections, which the modality of these elections needs to be completely rediscussed in Parliament, and they need some time to do it, of course. But in the meantime, nobody wants to take the responsibility of ruling Italy, because they know that if they take power now, if Salvini, for example, became prime minister tomorrow, or Di Maio, any other, they will simply lose the next election, because the situation is getting worse and worse every day, and the present government is a government of people who have to do a lot of compromises. That's why they want to leave it in the hands of a technical government, so then nobody takes the responsibility. This is a completely...
And so the audience understands, again, your story was from a couple weeks ago, and essentially what they've done with these Italian elections now is it's kind of a raw comparison, but essentially how the Democrats rigged the primary process with superdelegates, the way they set up the system, that's what they've done in Italy, is they've set up a system so that it's impossible to remove the party of power. And it sounds to me like the people of Italy are just kind of going to be forced to go along with this, and anybody who wants to stand up to the establishment is just kind of laying down their arms saying, well, there's nothing we can do now. So thank you for your update on that, Leo. It's sad that that's the case, though.
Just to say one last thing, the Democrat Party, who lost the elections here in Italy, the party that is founded by George Soros, connected to the Clinton Foundation, well, that is the party of the present prime minister that should be, of course, kicked out of office in a normal country. But in a dictatorship ruled by technocracy, he will just stay on because the EU has already threatened Italy, and the present politicians saying if they do anything to break the Stability Pact, they will be in big, big trouble.
Now, let's get into the Pope. Now, I was just thinking about this. You had the last Pope stepped down because of some stuff going on behind the scenes. He was basically forced to step down. But you've got this new pope. Ever since he's come in, it's been nothing but controversy. Controversial statements left and right. Controversy at the Vatican with gay sex parties, etc. Controversy with pedophilia. Now you got controversial comments. He says hell doesn't exist, and then the Vatican tries to play cover for that, saying, "Oh, this was an off-the-record conversation he was having with a friend. It wasn't supposed to make print, and that's not what he said." Sounds to me like ever since this new pope has gotten in, the Vatican has been a center of controversy, but yet he remains. How is this possible?
Well, it's possible because he's supported by the same people who support Hillary Clinton, who support the mondialists, who support this New World Order. I mean, he's been placed there for destroying the last remains of the Catholic Church after the Second Vatican Council. I mean, with Pope Francis in Italy, we have lost approximately something like 70,000 people each month that don't go any longer to church. And the numbers are increasing. And here we're talking already about a church which is not so active, because Catholics really tend to go to church only on Sundays. As you know, they don't really follow the church every day. But of course, they're losing numbers because nobody wants to associate with the Pope that every single day talks about politics and doesn't talk about religion and promotes the immigrants more than the Italians in a situation politically, like we just discussed, which saw the parties that won making new statements that actually the Pope immediately criticized. The Pope, the first thing he said after the Italian election, said, well, remember that you have to treat the immigrants like before, you have to keep the stability, this and that. And in the end, he's just keeping his own interest with, of course, the NGOs and the money that comes in from the European Union that is divided 50-50 with the Democrat Party.
Well, to me, it just shows how, I don't know if this is the right phrase, but compromised the Vatican is, or perhaps just out of sorts, or just, I don't even know the right word, but the state of the Vatican right now, where you got this Pope making these outlandish statements, like you said, putting politics above religion, you know, all these controversies engulfed now since he's become Pope, but it's like he's still fine. I mean, nobody's talking about him stepping down. Nobody talks about removing him. It seems like there's no problem. The Vatican is standing up for him.
No. Finally, last Thursday, I think this last Thursday, Easter Thursday, would be known as Black Thursday for the Catholic Church, because everything that could go wrong went wrong. In Australia, Cardinal Pell was waiting to see what will happen with his court case. In Italy, the Pope was washing the feet of Muslims in a prison, and at the same time, news was circulating about the fact that he said that hell doesn't exist. And all this while inside the Basilica of St. Peter's, there was actually pieces falling from the ceiling and scaring everybody, because...
Yeah, that's right. St. Peter, it was at St. Peter's Basilica, right?
Yes, and this I immediately saw the connections between these events, and I went and wrote the article that you also published on InfoWars. But later on, only a couple of days later, the famous Italian Catholic writer and journalist Antonio Socci made the same connection. That's why, if you go and check the article I published on InfoWars a couple of days ago, is now also in Italian on the site of Scenari Economici, which are...
Well, it was just Easter weekend, you know, Good Friday, Resurrection Sunday, and all you have coming out of the Catholic Church and the Vatican is bad news because of this Pope. That's it. We'll be right back. All right, Leo Zagami is my guest. We're going to get right back to him in a second. But first, I need to take care of some business here, folks. We've got specials running at InfoWarsStore.com, including on some of the most popular products like Cellforce and Real Red Pill. Now, I actually want to be clear about something because I had a audience member ask me if Cell Force is the same thing as Brain Force. The answer is no. Brain Force Plus, is a nootropic that stimulates your mind and can make you focus, give you mental clarity and energy. That is Brain Force Plus. Cell Force is actually more like DNA Force when you look at the ingredients. So in case there was any confusion in the audience, Cell Force is comparable to DNA Force as far as the ingredients and the product is concerned. Brain Force is a mental stimulant to give you extra added focus and clarity. But both of them are on sale right now. There's the sale on Brain Force Plus. You've got 50% off Brain Force Plus right now, 50% off Cell Force right now. So if there's anything in common, it's that they're both 50% off right now at InfoWarsStore.com. And if you regularly use these products because you are so pleased in the results, you can get auto ship at InfoWarsStore.com, and we will ship you the product automatically, and that gives you a 10% additional discount as well as a guarantee to have the product even if it is out of stock. Especially when we run these specials, a lot of times we will run out of product. It doesn't happen with Brain Force Plus as much as it used to because we order so much, it's so popular. But for a product like Bod Ease, which is 25% off right now, the ultimate turmeric product, that is one that when we do a sale like this, it could sell out before we get another run. And then, who is Alex Jones insane? We still have $50 off Alexa Pure Breeze right now at InfoWarsStore.com. Alex was, folks, I'm telling you, you don't understand how great of a deal this is. 2 weeks ago, Alex was going nuts at how we're basically giving this thing away for free, and it was supposed to be lifted 2 weeks ago. So you can still get $50 off the Alexa Pure Breeze. This is a steal. This is a joke. I've now got three of these. I love these things. It's just incredible. For odors, if you have a pet, if you have allergies, I mean, the thing is just incredible what it does for the air quality in your home. So please take advantage. $50 off Alexa Pure Breeze. In fact, you know what? Don't take advantage because I don't even know if we make money on that deal at this point. So you know what? Just let it go back to full price before you buy it. No, folks. I mean, seriously, we want you to have clean air. We want you to have clean water. That's why we sell air filters and water filters. Oh, wow. I like having clean air in my house. Maybe you do too. Let's sell an air filter. Wow, what a crazy idea. So it's all available at InfoWarsStore.com. And of course, that is how we maintain not just our independence to report what we want, how we want to, but also to maintain our own platform to stay above the censorship and expand. It's all at InfoWarsStore.com. All right, my guest is Leo Zagami. You know, Leo, you were talking about in the last segment how the Catholic Church has seen a dip in attendance, a dip in essentially Catholics, if you will. And when you were saying that, it made me think of something. You know, I grew up going to a Catholic church. I was raised Catholic. And in the year, it was either 1999 or 2000, Pope John Paul II came to my hometown of St. Louis. He was doing a huge tour then, in fact, which it seemed like he did all the time. And so I kind of want to get into this. Now, back then, I remember, like, it was a huge deal. Pope John Paul II had hundreds of thousands of people showing up on the streets for him to drive by in the Pope-mobile, showing up to a service he did at the time, the TWA Dome in St. Louis, Missouri. I mean, the guy got hundreds of thousands of people to turn out, millions of Catholics in the region energized, and it was this huge deal. People loved it. There was artwork inspired. I mean, he was inspiring. People loved Pope John Paul II. And now here we are with Pope Francis, and it's like the exact opposite. Yeah, there's an image from the service that Pope John Paul II did in St. Louis. You guys, you can see if you can find out how many people attended that. Leo, there was people waited like 7 hours to get communion from him. I mean, you're talking. But now Pope Francis come along, and he doesn't energize anybody. He doesn't go tour around to different cities to bring Catholics out, get them energized and talk about God. What happened to not just Francis, but what happened to the Vatican and the office of the Pope? I mean, what happened to the Pope? How did we go from John Paul II? I'm not saying I know he was perfect or anything, but I'm saying here's a guy that energized Catholics, was seemingly a great man, cared about his clergy, versus Francis, who apparently doesn't even believe in hell and puts politics over religion. How did we go from Pope John Paul II to this Francis?
First of all, Pope John Paul II was a product of his age. He was an anti-communist, as you know. He will probably is rolling it right now in his grave when he sees what is happening with the Catholic Church in the hand of a Marxist communist, because that was totally contrary to his ideology. He might have had a lot of defects. He was definitely not perfect. I dislike, for example, the fact that he gave recognition to people like Jimmy Savile, who was the biggest pedophile of all times, and knighted him. But at the same time, he fought communism, and he really was like a military in his battle against communism. Now we have the exact contrary in the person of Pope Francis, who is a Jesuit, who is compromised with a mondialist vision of the New World Order connected to Marxism, to communism, and to this whole project that wants to destroy the actual Christian faith and the Catholic faith, of course, that the Pope represents. This happened gradually, of course, already since the time of the Second Vatican Council with Pope Roncalli, Montini, who started it, and then the whole thing went on. But in John Paul II days, it was still more of a show of propaganda. Now we have a pope who is actually ready to become enemy of half of the population, because he's not diplomatic at all. I mean, half of the population and half of his church dislikes him. There is priests, of course, who have a completely negative idea of Pope Francis, who are in the other side of Europe and are in countries like Poland, where John Paul II came from, who completely dislike Pope Francis. These priests, these Catholic priests, some of them I actually know, they are really upset, like most of the Catholic priests in Slavic ex-communist countries, because they suffered because of communism. And now they see a church in the hand of a communist. For them is a nightmare. So
well, let me ask you this, Leo. Let me ask you this, though. The crew just found it. Over 100,000 people showed up for Pope John Paul II's service at the TWA Dome in St. Louis. Again, I'm not trying to make any character assessment of Pope John Paul II. I was young at the time. I just remember being at these events when he was in St. Louis and seeing the excitement. I mean, I feel like if Pope Francis came to the city of St. Louis tomorrow, you couldn't even get 20,000 people to show up. I don't think anyone cares about this guy. I think they've all kind of said, look, this guy's a communist, a political prop. We're done with it.
Well, you see, Pope Francis is working in line with the enemies of Donald J. Trump. Just before Easter, he actually, during his sermon, said some words that were given directly, actually directed to Trump, of course, and to what happened with the guns, and of course with David Hogg and the whole show, no? And he actually said, young people, you don't have to listen to anybody else, just shout your idea. This is propaganda to empower the people who are against the NRA, those young folks who are making this brainwashing propaganda. This is all happening because it's in line with what the Pope is saying. Remember that this is a new world order where the Pope has actually a leading role, not just any kind of role. He's like a general in charge of an army that is...
So we got 30 seconds left quickly. Do you see that role coming to a conclusion soon, or are they going to leave that communist Pope in office?
Well, there has been an attempt, as I said, last Thursday, and they threatened him. They said, you know, here there is at least 2 accusations of heresy. We can nail you down. But it seems he's resisting. So if this whole discontent grows in the Catholic Church, at one point he will have to step down. His only way...
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the Resistance.
Introducing CellForce by InfoWars Life. CellForce focuses on mitochondria efficiency and protection. Mitochondria produce over 95% of your energy. They are your body's cellular engines. CellForce helps promote your cellular energy production by supporting mitochondria, much like a cellular engine overhaul, because when your mitochondria don't run at 100% efficiency, then they start producing reactive oxygen species. Top scientists agree that aging is most likely caused by cellular damage, resulting from these reactive oxygen species. The antioxidants found in CellForce are some of the most powerful available on the market. The stronger the antioxidant, the better its ability to scavenge for these reactive oxygen species and other free radicals. Boost, protect, and adapt with CellForce from InfoWars Life. Head to InfoWarsLife.com or call 1-888-253-3139.